right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And we got I'm excited for this beer tonight. It's a brewery I'd never heard of. I'm so sorry, Keg Creek, that I've never heard of you. But we're getting to the point that our favorite place to go get beer, we're making the rounds. We've seen about all we can see reasonably, and we don't want to double up if we don't have to. So Keg Creek Brewing, I'm very excited that for the first time I noticed you in our local Hy-Vee. So thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we'll be cracking those open here in just a few minutes. But first, we got to pay the bills.
Yeah, we do.
So I'm going to do that quick. We'll give a quick shout out to Big Top Ventures. If you are looking for an all-inclusive vacation in Mexico or Jamaica, you should send them an email right now. It's down here. Go ahead and do that. Big Top Ventures LLC at gmail.com. And they can get you the lowest rate on several all-inclusive resorts throughout Mexico and Jamaica. So step right up to your next big adventure.
Yeah.
And hit them up.
Evan, just do it, man. Just get it done.
We're in the school year now, so it's going to be kind of tough to take a vacation, but we'll get there.
Smells like an excuse over there. Well, I don't know.
We'll get there.
You need to figure it out. All right.
We'll get there.
Let's dive into this beer because I'm really excited. There were 3 different varieties of this brewing company that I noticed for the first time ever at the local Hy-Vee. And of course, I went for the hazy IPA. There was an amber, and there was one other kind that I think I initially picked up the other kind, but I don't remember what it was. But I saw the Midwest Haze from Keg Creek Brewing, and I was like, okay, that's the one I'm going to bring. So I hope you like it. I'm very excited for it. I'm the hazy IPA guy, and I know I'm going to like it, but I hope you like it too.
Let's do it.
And
throwing
it back to the football glasses.
Mugs.
Yeah, I'm excited. So let's dive in. Evan, I challenge you to have a good pour on this.
All right. I got better. Actually, I was pouring a beer last night, and I'm like, that was pretty good.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody was watching? And
no, actually, my wife and brother and sister-in-law, you can ask them.
I'm sure we can ask them, and they would give a true testimony.
Hey, look, we did about the same.
There it is. All right, well, I can give a true testimony, Evan. That's a good pour.
Skol.
I'm excited. Skol. Oh, we need to do
that
better.
Was a good one. Better.
There we go.
I like that.
All right, so this has like it's hazy but not totally unsee-throughable, and it's got a lighter color to it, almost like a pilsner-ish color to it, with a little haze. It's got really good head retention. Really good hop flavor for me. I'm really liking this hop flavor. Yes, it's a juicy, hazy IPA, and when you try a beer for the first time from a brewery, you never know what to expect, but man, that one drink, good job, Keg Creek. Good job. Where are they from again?
Keg Creek is based out of Glenwood, Iowa, so down kind of in the southwestern corner, pretty close to Nebraska, kind of like Omaha, Council Bluffs. Would be pretty close. All
right, so the can says this juicy IPA uses the best local Iowa and Nebraska hops. An added hop hash intensifies the citrusy notes in this any time of the year beer. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to expect from that description, but it's a good hazy, juicy IPA. I like it a lot. I'm excited for the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely delicious, and 6.2%. So it's kind of right in your
it's my
preferred wheelhouse.
My sweet spot. 6 to 6.5 is my like bullseye of perfect ABV for beers. I don't know about you. That's perfect for me, and so far this is hitting all the boxes. So I'm excited to keep going and give a true, honest review after a couple more.
Yeah, and you better know that I'm gonna hunt down that amber the next time I'm at Hy-Vee.
It's there. I could paint a verbal picture to get you right where they were located. So I'll do that later.
All right. We can do that off air.
All right.
We got to do one other thing quick before we really get into the episode, and that is we've got to continue to remind all of you out there to go give us a vote for the Iowa Podcast Awards.
Yeah.
So we're going to put that link down here as well. It'll also be linked down in the description, so you can click on that. But head over to iowapodcastawards.com/vote. And you can vote for up to 3 Iowa-based podcasts for their People's Choice Award. We would love it if people would vote for us. We're also in the running for Best Sports Podcast and the Emerging Podcast.
Mm-hmm. And I've looked at the competition. There's some other really good Iowa podcasts listed on all 3 of those awards. And I really think... Honestly, I think we match up to the competition. I think we're worthy of being nominated, just to toot our own horn there for a second. But even being nominated, that's super cool for us. But one of the more cool parts about this whole podcast awards experience is that we're going to be able to, not next episode, but the episode after that, episode 58 of the Skol Hop, will be recorded live at the podcast awards. You may listen to it after the fact on one of the many, podcatchers that you're listening to us on, but we're going to be recording it live September 15th at the awards, minutes after the Vikings game against the 49ers ends. And that's the thing I'm most excited about, is to be able to get up in front of people and do what we're doing now, and review a beer and just kind of do our thing live, and hopefully gain a few more followers and just get our name out there a little bit more. Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun to just kind of rub shoulders with some other podcasters and get to know people from all over the state that are doing the same thing we're doing, probably on a weekly or a bi-weekly, monthly basis, who knows, and working hard, just trying to, do what they're passionate about.
Yeah. So just one more time this episode, go ahead, please. We'd be honored if you'd go vote for us for the People's Choice Awards. Check out some of the other podcasts that are listed on there too. There's a few really good podcasts on that list as well. But yeah, we'd love to win. We're honored to be nominated, and we can't wait to see everybody there on the 15th too.
I know I've told you this, but I don't know that I've shared this information publicly, but the day before the podcast awards, do you remember where I'm going?
You're going you're going to see our alma mater at a Big Ten University football game.
Yes, I am.
The UNI Panthers are playing the Nebraska Cornhuskers in Nebraska on the 14th of September, and you're going to be in attendance.
I will be there, yes. I'll be there with my wife and her parents. Her dad is a Nebraska alum, but he did joke that maybe he'll have to wear his UNI shirt because he paid more tuition to UNI than he did to Nebraska.
That's funny. Actually, if you're an Eagle Eye Skol Hop viewer on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, you might be able to see some Nebraska something on the set here.
There's UNI stuff down here for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I've had any of the Nebraska stuff out.
I thought you had some form of the field.
Yeah, I think. Where did I put that? I don't think that's in here.
Okay, it was at one point.
Oh no, it is. It is down here. It's actually I'm covering it up right now, but
okay.
It's an old piece of turf.
Yeah.
From Memorial Stadium.
That's pretty cool.
So,
and as a Hawk fan, any sports memorabilia is pretty cool to me. So yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So it's going to be a busy weekend for me. Football game Saturday night and then podcast awards on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it'll be a fun weekend for you.
I'm excited.
So this coming season for the Vikings, we've talked about it a couple of times. We're adding a new segment onto the show each week. And what are we calling it, Ev?
Purple Punishments.
Yeah. So last week and kind of the last handful of days, we've really finalized the list of these punishments that will be. So we're going to, each week, how this will work is a few episodes ago, we made our episode or our game by game pick on if we think the Vikings will win or lose each game. And each week, if our previously chosen pick was incorrect, whether they win or lose, if we picked them to win or lose and we were wrong, Evan and or I will have to spin a virtual wheel of punishments that we'll have to complete on the episode, and we finalize those punishments.
Yeah, so I'll list off some of them. I don't think we'll go through the whole list. We'll leave a few kind of in the air for some suspense. But one of the ideas, and we could do this multiple weeks in a row, would be wearing apparel for a division rival. That would be tough.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be the biggest punishment on this whole list for me, is if I theoretically have to wear something with a Packer logo on it. That
would be rough.
Listen in if I have to do that. You will hear the pissed offness in my voice because I'm repping something from their team. But yeah, there's other stuff too.
Yeah, so something that you and I did a long time ago when we were in junior high, we could bring back the consume an entire jar of pickles challenge all in one sitting.
That's every pickle, every drop of juice.
Everything.
But that's a punishment. So if one of us lands on that, that'll probably be more like a throughout the episode.
We're just going to snack on pickles the whole time.
Either one of us, if we land on that, we'd have to...
And then I'll chug the juice at the end.
Well, so I don't know about you. In my mind, because theoretically, if we both lose that week...
we're both going to...
Yeah, there will be 2 jars of pickles. So we each have to... The challenge is not tandem consume a jar of pickle.
That's fair.
It's you have to, by yourself, consume an entire jar. I like pickles. I do.
So do I.
But that's a lot.
That's a lot of pickles.
It's a lot of pickles and pickle juice. So
I'm gonna go to Sam's Club and get the big, huge jar.
the like Jimmy John's-esque like giant pickles. I don't know about that.
All right, some other ones here. More consuming things. The Sprite challenge, eating something spicy.
We had listed eat a habanero, but one of us is not super good with spicy food, and one of us didn't want to commit to eating a habanero. And to their credit, the other one kind of suggested, hey, maybe we just say something spicy rather than a habanero. So
it's me.
I love definitely spicy me. Food. But still, eating an entire habanero just in one shot on the episode, that would be a lot. Like
while drinking beer at the same time, like that's gonna be torture.
But we'll still be up there.
I can barely make it through medium wings at B-Dubs.
I'm the guy that when the Mexican restaurant brings out the hot sauce that they say is hot, I taste it and I don't even recognize that it's supposed to be hot. Like, I like spicy food.
You must have no taste buds.
My wife tells me that I've completely burned my taste buds. So, I like the challenge. So I would do 2 habaneros. I would do 5. Anyways, what else we got on there?
A few other ones. Again, we're gonna save some of these for later. But wearing a blindfold for the entire episode, or
that would be hilarious.
Wearing socks on your hands. Trying to drink beer. Maybe we'll have to bring the mugs with the handles back for that one.
I don't know if that'd be easier or if it would be easier to do the football glasses. Maybe. Either way, we will have already probably poured our beer at that point before we know what the punishment is.
Yeah, we probably will need to do that. So anyways, those are just a handful of the ideas. We have a list of 18, one for each week of the season. Obviously, they only play 17 games and we only made 17 picks, but there's an extra one on there just in case.
And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. Listeners, if you can think of something that would be funny, something we could add to the list that would be good, I mean, we would still listen to suggestions at this point. Even through the season, if we've done a handful of punishments, we would still listen to better ideas. Because these are it was actually kind of difficult to come up with some of these ideas. So,
well, we wanted stuff that we could do like right away, like in the moment, not like, oh, we've got to go like do that later kind of thing.
And not too punishing, like I've said, like stapling our forehead or getting a face tattoo or something. Nothing crazy like that. But like, I mean, if we hear a really funny or cool idea, we'd add it to the list, I think.
Eating a habanero might actually be torture for me.
I don't know, man.
I might die.
You just got to do it. I have a habanero plant at home. I think I just need to bring one over and just let you do a dry run. Maybe we can film it. Maybe we don't have to, just totally up to you.
You're going to be over there with your phone, like trying to sneak record.
Maybe.
All right, well, that's coming up next week. Again, it's based on our game picks. So we both said that the Vikings will win against the Giants.
Yeah, game 1 of the season.
Let's hope they win, and hopefully we don't have to spin the wheel week 1.
But if they lose, we're both spinning the wheel, and we will... Man, will we have to do that at theoretically at the podcast awards?
I think we had talked that we would pre-spin the wheel for that one.
Yes, you did. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
So that way, when we're there, we already know what the punishment will be, and we'll do it there.
But we'll have to
it'll take some
it.
prep.
We'll have to, if we're going to spin it on an episode, we'll have to do it next week, unless we just do it, you and me, prior to recording or whatever. We'll need to figure that out.
We'll figure that out. But yeah, we could probably spin the wheel twice next week. Once for if we didn't pick the Giants game correctly, and then one as kind of a preemptive spin for the Niners game.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess my timing's messed up. Next week we'll be talking, and it'll be a recap of the Giants game. You're right. Okay.
Next week we'll have actual regular season football to talk about.
Oh man, I almost don't believe it.
Let's talk about the game really quick. We're gonna have in a little bit here. We're gonna have Dustin Baker on.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to talk to him about kind of his final thoughts before the season starts. But before he joins us, let's talk about what we think. What's going to happen week one? There hasn't been a ton of new developments in terms of like roster moves and stuff.
I mean, as far as like the last time we recorded, Jaron Hall was still a Vikings quarterback. They had just made the initial 53-man roster, but as far as on the Skol Hop, we haven't really given our thoughts on like the practice squad being finalized, or really there haven't been a ton of earth-shaking moves, just more so the practice squad being finalized. But I mean, Jaron Hall's a big talker. Kene Nwangwu failing his physical with the Saints, and I guess he's a free agent, or did he? I know he kind of visited the Jets or was about to. I don't know. There's some news that we haven't talked about, and we can bring that up with Dustin. But yeah, I mean, the Giants are coming up. What are your thoughts on? Do the Vikings win? What are your initial thoughts? Initially, do you think the Vikings win?
I'm going to stick with the pick that I made originally. I mean, I'll stand by that pick. I think there will be some times later on this season where I'm like, back in July or August or whatever when I made those picks, I didn't know what I know now.
Yep.
But I still think the Vikings are just a stronger team, and I think they're a better coached team. I think right now Kevin O'Connell's job is pretty safe at this point.
This point, yeah.
And we can talk about this later too, but we maybe talked about the article that came out with Mike Zimmer. Yeah. That's another talker here in a minute. But anyways, just hearing some of that cultural thing that KOC brings in, the cultural piece, and how he's really built a family out of this team. And on the flip side, you have Brian Daboll, who's probably on the hot seat.
You could argue, yeah.
I think going into this season, if he doesn't find success, he could be out of a job in January, February.
Could be.
So he's really got to make something out of Daniel Jones. He's got to figure that out and get that going. And I don't think that was a good save, by the way. Nice.
A terrible pour. I have, sorry, for those that are only listening, I'm pouring my second beer. And yes, I've been pretty cocky and confident in my pours in the last handful of weeks. I just had one that was legitimately too hard of a pour, and I had to save the foam. I had to jump in and try to drink some of the foam.
We do have paper towels.
We do, but hey, thank you for the compliment and the good save, but it's all because I had a terrible pour. So.
It's okay. We'll focus on the positives, just like KOC does. And
what a transition! There it is.
Hey, but yeah, I really think KOC's coaching will come through, and I think the Giants will struggle. I don't think their defense is great. And honestly, I don't know that they have a whole lot going on offense. Mm-hmm. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think leadership-wise, the Vikings are in a better spot. KOC definitely, every once in a while, you'll see a coach that players play for. I think of Leslie Frazier, former Vikings coach. Mm-hmm. He was definitely a player's coach, but he no offense to Leslie Frazier, he's a better coach than I could ever even dream to be, but he wasn't that great of an NFL coach. Yeah, he was a guy that people rallied behind and played for, and he was a motivator and a leader, but as far as like being a good X's and O's coach, he just didn't bring that to the table, and that's why he didn't succeed in the NFL. As a head coach, he's been a pretty good coordinator. I think KOC truly brings it all. He's a rah guy. He is a player's coach. The team after every win puts out a video of him like sprinting around the locker room, giving the rah speech, handing out the game balls, and he definitely seems like a guy that players want to play for and players like to make happy because he is such a good guy, but he's also a really good coach. He knows the X's and O's. He was an NFL quarterback. Yeah, he wasn't a Hall of Famer, but he was an NFL quarterback. He knows the game, and he knows how to be a head coach. So I think KOC brings it all to the table, and everything we've heard is the rest of the coaching staff also brings it all to the table. Brian Flores, he's got to be one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and players like to play for all these coaches. So I think when you compare the Vikings coaches and the Giants coaches, it definitely seems like the Vikings have the upper hand there. Roster-wise, maybe they're pretty even. I would argue like they're probably about even, neck and neck. And when I looked earlier today, Monday the 2nd of September, Labor Day, DraftKings has this game. The Vikings are favored by 1 point, which essentially means it's a pick'em game. So it's going to be an even game. It shouldn't be a blowout either way. And it's not one that even Vegas is confident in saying, yeah, this one's the favorite. This one, it'll be a close game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'd like to think that it's more than a 1 point game.
Yeah, theoretically it won't be, but I think we both are going to stick by our picks, saying that the Vikings are going to win. Yes, it's in New York or New Jersey where the Giants play, but I don't know. I have more confidence in the coaching staff for the Vikings to be that edge to win the game.
Yeah, we got a kicker now too who can make kicks.
Yeah, and he's not wearing 46 anymore. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Today, the Vikings announced a bunch of jersey number changes. Stephon Gilmore, he's wearing number 2 now. Brian Asamoah, he's wearing number 6. He was number 2. And Will Reichard, he switched from 46 to 16, which was available because Jaron Hall got cut.
Yeah,
didn't come back.
That's a better number for him to wear. What was his college number? I don't remember.
Know. We could probably look it up. I feel like it was probably something closer to 16 than 46. Although college kickers frequently they'll wear like 99 or something like that.
It looks like he was 16.
Was it? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I know Twitter seemed to be pretty excited when when Reichard switched his number to 16 for the Vikings. So, yeah, it seems like a better number for 15, a kicker. 15 in Alabama? Okay. Well, and if you compare it to...
No, 16. No, I don't
interesting.
know. I'm getting mixed signals.
Maybe he was there for a while. Maybe he switched numbers around a couple of times. But John Parker Romo, the former Vikings kicker that got beat out by Will Reichard, he was wearing 96 for the Vikings. And that's, Brian Robinson, that's...
Yep.
Yeah, that's a defensive lineman number, so...
It's definitely weird to see a kicker in anything over like 20.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even 20 would be a weird, but yeah, I would have been okay with a 46 for a Vikings kicker. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, we got a few more minutes and then we're going to toss it over to Dustin Baker. Mm-hmm. You sent me this article. I think, was it a USA Today or a Star Tribune or something?
It was Star Tribune.
Okay.
I think Mark Craig is who wrote the article. But yeah, it's essentially an interview with Mike Zimmer, the most recent former Vikings head coach. And it was pretty interesting. Did you read the article?
I did. Yeah, I got through most of it, and then I saw a lot of people talking about it on Twitter and other social media sites. So it was interesting to see the commentary after it came out.
Yeah, I will say, so I read it all the way through, but before I read it all the way through, I saw the quotes that people were tweeting out and reacting to. and some of the quotes, one of the big ones is something to the tune of like the Wilfs, when they let Zimmer go, they also gave him the opportunity if he wanted to go address the team before he left. And the quote was something like, heck no, they got me fired. And so that's the one that got tweeted around. And yeah, that's probably a really, really blunt and honest thought in the thought process. But if you read the whole article, it doesn't make Zimmer come off across as like the biggest jerk in the world. It gives you some insight into a guy that was fired and didn't really think he should have been fired, but he still, I think if you read the whole article, it gives you a better perspective on his thought process and lets you know, yeah, he was annoyed, but he's not the worst person in the world.
And also a guy who was grieving quite a bit after losing his son. And I mean, he had some other issues off the field in Minnesota too with I know he had eye problems and he had to wear the patch for a long time and all that. So, I thought the article did a nice job of maintaining his dignity and his honor. He's still a great coach. I like how it started where, I think it was either his daughter or his now girlfriend or something. Was it his daughter?
Yeah.
His daughter basically said like, yeah, you're happier now. Like you have a better demeanor in life than you did when you were kind of in the thick of it as a head coach. So,
do you remember that NFL? It was like an NFL promo commercial they put out, I think either to like start the season, and they were kind of giving clips of a bunch of players and coaches and people around the league like being really happy about like, the season's about to start, and then it like just cut to Mike Zimmer behind his desk, like just kind of like for like 5 straight seconds, just like straight face, angry, like whatever, like get out of my office. And maybe everything I just said, I was too far away from the mic, I don't know. But the NFL, and he kind of put off this persona when he was the Vikings coach of like this guy that's like just pissed off all the time. I remember seeing a clip of when he was a Bengals defensive coordinator. They were on Hard Knocks, and it was this like 30-second clip, and most of it was bleeped out because not even every other word, but like most of the words Zimmer was saying to these players mid-game was like MF, all these, every swear word in the book, probably some swear words he made up, but like he just kind of came off across as like this hard-nosed guy. And this article, the beginning of it was like, yeah, he's actually kind of smiling. Like he kind of likes coaching again for the Cowboys as a defensive coordinator again. Like, I don't know. It was a good article. I'd recommend finding it if you can. I know the Star Tribune has a paywall behind most of their stuff. We were able to find it and read it. So I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was. And like I said, it didn't paint Zimmer as a bad guy. I definitely think he's your old school coach. Rough, tough. And it was surprising though to dig into the team culture a little bit, because we knew there were issues. We knew it wasn't all, sunshine and rainbows in the locker room.
Yeah, he straight up said like his last year as the Vikings coach, him and Rick Spielman, the GM,
didn't speak to each other.
Didn't talk.
Well, he got frosty with a lot of people. He got frosty with Kirk Cousins and wouldn't talk to him because he didn't agree with signing Kirk Cousins.
That's interesting.
And that was an interesting quote in the article when he said, "Yeah, Kirk came and then we lost the ability to sign better defensive players."
Yeah,
which I think could have helped us.
And he was saying like we were winning 10 plus games every year with guys like Bridgewater or Case Keenum. Like we didn't need the MVP level quarterback, and then we get one and we pay him all this money, and it makes the rest of the roster suffer because we can't sign these guys. And
then I don't know if it was in the article or if it was a separate quote from Kellen Mond kind of in response to all this, but I saw something. Kellen Mond was quoted saying, and this was on Twitter, I think, that he didn't speak to Zimmer once.
Yeah, I think it alluded to it in the article. And
we all know that Zimmer didn't like that Spielman took Kellen Mond at all. I think that was pretty obvious to anybody, even casual fans. But you drafted the guy, you're the head coach. to not even have the conversation. And that just reminds me of Justin Jefferson, like not even knowing where the head coach's office was at TCO.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even in the article, but that was just something we heard about. And like KOC is just a night and day different coach. Like and we've already alluded to it, we've already said it, like he's a player's coach. He builds relationships with these guys, and now you see the videos coming out on Vikings social media of like Justin Jefferson just happens to swing by the office and like, hey man, what's up? And you know, they dap each other up, give each other a hug. And
I love it. A couple of times the Vikings have put out little shorts or TikToks or whatever, and it'll be like KOC kind of walking up to the huddle of players in practice, and he'll kind of jab and be like, now I know you guys all suck at basketball, but we need you to jump high. And all the players are like, what? No way. It's funny, but like that's the kind of culture you're talking about. Like KOC just jokes around with these guys, but still gets the job done. I think Zimmer was very much the like, he was the drill sergeant and got things done, and some players respond to that, some players don't. And if they don't and you're not winning, that's what's going to cause a change in coaching. So it was a good article. I enjoyed reading it. And ultimately, I came away having a more positive attitude about Zimmer. If you understand and accept that he is the hard-nosed guy, that he says things a certain way and he has a certain way of doing things, which is that quote-unquote drill sergeant way, but people still like him. Like, he's not universally hated. He's got the hard-nosed, this is how we're going to do it, and sometimes it rubs people the wrong way, but ultimately I read the article and had a better perspective on Mike Zimmer.
And I would also add, I think the Vikings hired the right guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In Kevin O'Connell. I think Zimmer was a good coach. We found some success under him, and it seems like he's a lot happier now that he's had a few years away from football, and now he's reintegrated back with the Cowboys. Good for him. Wish him nothing but the best, but boy, am I glad that we've got Kevin O'Connell leading the charge.
And to that point, in the article, it kind of asks, like, Mike Zimmer if he would ever want or think he could ever get another head coaching position again. And he kind of, like, dances around the question. He doesn't say yes or no if he wants to be a head coach again, but he does kind of say, maybe I'm a little too old, and honestly I think these owners want a coach that can really coach the quarterback, which that's how the NFL is going these days. And I think Zimmer's right in that aspect, that owners and GMs, they want a head coach that can be the mentor to the quarterback. And to that point, I think KOC is the perfect example of that. I don't think we could have a better one.
I definitely agree. Well, we probably better wrap things up for this part of the episode. We're going to push us into our conversation with Dustin Baker here pretty shortly.
Yep.
And we'll come back after that. We'll talk about the beer and give some final thoughts before we head into week 1 of the NFL season.
Can't wait. All right, Skol.
Skol.
All right, welcome back, Skol Hoppers. So we're about halfway through our episode here, and we're graced again with the awesome, amazing, wonderful, I know he loves all these compliments, Dustin Baker. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, man. I hung out with Thor Nystrom yesterday for a couple hours right before the Minnesota State Fair, and we talked about when on shows like these, when you guys shower us with these type of compliments, we're both kind of like, we're just regular dudes. We don't, we're just like you, so we appreciate it. But if you met us for whatever situation, you figured out that I'm just like your neighbor or a guy you went to high school with. So thank you, nevertheless.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I hope I kind of do it a little tongue in cheek too. Like,
now it's a bit.
Yeah, the first time you ever came on the Skol Hop, last year? I the whole day leading up to it, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have Dustin Baker coming on. I'm super stoked, and I'm still super stoked, and I'm still a big fan of yours. But like, I was almost starstruck. Like, you could have been insert actual Vikings player here, and I still would have been like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited. I hope I don't blow this. So
I know you're telling the truth, because this is the exact same feeling I had with Bryant McKinney 4 years ago when we started the Believe show. I felt like a total fanboy when I met him on Zoom the first time. And then within a year, I'm like, oh, shit, let me text Bryant real quick and see what's going on. It just felt like the most casual thought I've ever had in my life. So I know how that feeling goes.
Yeah, well, and you've told enough stories with Bryant that it's like, oh, yeah, hey, here, let me just text Randall, and we'll get Randy Moss on the episode next week. Like, what are you
gotta be careful. You got to be careful who you name drop, because he'll just get them in the group chat. You're like, oh, my God.
Well, that'd be such a terrible problem to have, to accidentally get Randy Moss on the show next week. That'd be crazy. But again, all of that, thanks for coming on. We got some Vikings news to talk about, and holy F, we have a season coming in less than a week. Our next episode, we'll be talking about the Giants game. I'm super excited. I can't wait. It almost doesn't feel real.
Football's back.
Yeah. All right, so we do have some pre-written talking points here. Preseason just kind of wrapped up, and last week we talked about the initial 53-man roster. Just as a whole, what were your thoughts on the final cuts? Like, any surprises, anything you totally called and you're proud about? What are your total thoughts about all of that?
So would you rather me go through surprises first, or my favorite thing from it? What's
just
best for
whatever
you guys?
You want to talk about. Let's just say you get X amount of time. Just
okay.
Your total thoughts on the final cuts.
Okay, so I'll do it threefold. I'll do two surprises and then the thing that I enjoyed. The biggest surprise, and this may not mimic what your audience or any like casual Joe Everyman at the grocery store might say, but the fact that Jalen Redmond made the roster was astonishing to me. Not that he was utterly anonymous all summer. It's that usually UFL stories or XFL stories, the only thing that's cool about those is the moment he signs, you're like, oh, I watched that son of a gun play for the Arlington Renegades. Now he's on the Vikings. That part is kind of cool, but it rarely translates into a end of summer success story. So the fact that he made the roster, to me, I don't know any Vikings fan or writer, analyst, whatever you want to call him, that had him on the final 53-man. And I was proud this year. I got 51 out of 53 right, and Redmond was one of the ones I got wrong. So the fact that an unsung signing from May or June, whatever it was, we're like, who is this? We all had to go rewatch the tape from Oklahoma, and we're like, oh, yeah, I remember him a little bit, that he made it. And then the Kane and Nwangwu release was surprising, because this is just like Lewisine. The moment both those guys get good or look good, we're like, we don't need you anymore. So I wasn't surprised when it was all settled about Lewisine, because you could kind of feel it that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is not afraid to admit a mistake and cut bait and move on. And there was just no playing time for Cine available, even if he was that Browns badass that we saw in the second preseason game. But with Nwangwu, when the NFL tweaked the kickoff return rule, we're like, sweet, we have a top 4 fastest player in the NFL, and we've got this fancy new return rule. Well, most of us weren't like, oh, that doesn't cater to straight line speed, so he's going to be out. Brevin Bain on Vikes Now, and he writes for Purple PTSD, he chirped all summer that Nwangwu could be a surprise cut, and he got that right. But I was surprised because this team wasn't deep as hell at running back. Kick returner doesn't have studs like all over the roster. But they said, you know what, we're done with Nwangwu because we like Myles Gaskin. And it's like, oh, the practice squad guy from 5 different stints during the 2023 season. I was surprised that they cut bait with Nwangwu, mainly because I thought he had won the RB3 job. And then finally, my favorite part of the roster trim down was the undrafted free agents that we were like, this guy looks like a badass. We pounded our chest. The Athletic wrote Prospect X about Levi Drake Rodriguez. After Kyrie Jackson died, we looked down at the depth chart and saw only one rookie cornerback in Dwight McLaughlin. It was cool that guys we saw in training camp look good. They translated to the end of the summer and made the regular season roster. So there was always a chance, like Bo Richter went, where, oh, he's going to hit the practice squad, and then we'll see if anything ever happens. but the fact that McLaughlin and Drake Rodriguez made the club, it shows that we've got some young steal of a deal prospects in the pipeline, and like Levi Drake Rodriguez looks good, and he looks like Vita Vea out there with his long hair. Yeah. So UDFA is doing it for a second year in a row after Ivan Pace effectuated his famous Instagram tweet about y'all done effed up. So I love seeing Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah atone for some of his draft sins by getting these almost like Miami Heat stories, the undrafted guys over and over that end up with the Heat deep in the playoffs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There were 2 points that I made before final cutdowns. I definitely predicted Bo Richter would make the final 53. I don't know. Maybe it's because he looks, and I've said this on the show before. It's not my joke, but I've stolen it. He looks like mini JJ Watt with all the arm tape and everything. Plus, he also looked really good when he was on the field. And the second one is I've predicted LDR, Levi Drake Rodriguez. He will start 2 or 3 games this year.
That'll be sweet.
Injury or otherwise, like he will find himself as a 1 or 2 to 3 game starter for the Vikings, and I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. He definitely seems like somebody. He seems like a CJ Ham type player that the team is they'll mic him up. They already have in the preseason. They'll mic him up. They'll throw him up on a quick little YouTube video when they announce another jersey compilation or whatever. He seems like somebody the VEN is going to put out to the media, and I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. And I'm excited that Rodriguez made the team. Evan, were there any surprises or just your overall thoughts on the cuts?
Well, so Dustin, you already mentioned Lewis Cine, and you kind of shared your feelings on that, and I don't think anybody was really surprised that he was gone. I think it was time for both the player and the organization to just cut ties, move on, and hopefully things work out for both. But do you think, just looking back on these cuts, do you think specifically like Kene or Jaren Hall or maybe another player, do you think any of those players feel like the Vikings kind of did them dirty? They kind of the Vikings maybe should have kept them around for one reason or another?
Let's see. So Andrew Booth, he would be part of that group.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was traded. That's his own damn fault. He never busted out. I thought he played decent last year, but nobody else really agreed. Lewis Cine, I guess he in theory can feel like he was done dirty, but we've already seen reports that his agent thought the Vikings handled it with utmost class. Lewis Cine's biggest problem is not that he broke his leg. It's a huge problem, but it's that the Vikings don't need him right now. Are we really going to bench Josh Metellus because we want Cine to make good on his draft stock? No. Are we going to tell Hitman to retire? No. So it was a crowded safety room. I guess Cine in theory could be a little salty, but it doesn't sound like that. His agent pretty much said that the Vikings, the way that Kwesi handled these last couple weeks was pretty awesome. Jaren Hall, the only reason that he would have a right to think, what the hell, man, is if he was told repeatedly, yeah, you could be the quarterback of the future. If he was told that this summer, that would be a raw deal. But
also, that'd be a straight up lie, right?
Yeah, and I don't.
Your team drafts a guy the highest they've ever drafted a quarterback. And if they're still trying to pump you up, you got to know that's a bold faced lie.
Yeah,
right?
And I was surprised that he got cut because they just drafted him like a year and 4 months ago, and you would think he'd have the staying power to be the QB3. But I was telling you guys backstage, I never saw it with him that, oh my God, look how good the preseason games were. I didn't see it because to me, his throws always looked high or late, and that's not a good mix. So whenever I got excited about him, it was like, oh, this guy can be a QB2 eventually. I never said, you can't cut Jaren Hall. But as long as the messaging was clear to him, which maybe it wasn't, but he'd have to be stupid not to watch this most recent draft and realize that he's not going to be the quarterback of the future. So when he got unceremoniously waived the other day, it doesn't surprise me at all that he latched on to the Seahawks this afternoon, because that is one of the few teams in the NFL with a quarterback long-term situation that looks meh. Between Geno Smith, they're going to keep squeezing that story. I guess, what's his name? Sam Howell could end up being okay.
Oh, yeah.
But if there was ever a spot besides the Raiders to latch onto right now, to think, hey, I'm going to show them I can be QB1, it would probably be the Seahawks. Ultimately, these guys are professionals. They shouldn't be butthurt about certain things, especially Hall. I mean, I guess you could get sour that J.J. McCarthy was drafted, but then you're not a really good teammate if you're going to bitch about that, which I don't think he did, for the record.
Yeah.
So the only one that I would say, poor guy, would be Lewis Seen, because all of his doldrums really did start when he broke his leg, and then by the time he came back, the Vikings got in a big damn hurry getting good at his position.
The only thing about Lewis Seen, though, is, and not to crap on a guy that can't defend himself on our podcast, like, even before he broke his leg, pretty gruesomely, like that was a significant injury that, honestly, that's an excuse-worthy injury. But even before then, like, he broke his leg on a special teams play.
Yeah.
Like, he was the first-round pick. Like, I don't know. He wasn't flashing before then, and obviously I'm not a coach. I'm not an insider. I don't know anything. But, like, if you're throwing your first-round pick out on special teams, week 4 or 5, whenever that was in the season, like, this is a guy that, yeah, you're developing him, but he's obviously not showing true starter potential at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I digress. Like, yeah, he's gone. He's a Jet now, right? He's on the practice squad. I really hope the best for him, just like Laquan Treadwell.
Mm-hmm.
I actually get excited when I see the tweet that's like, oh, hey, Treadwell signed with the Colts. Like, okay, good for him.
Our annual Treadwell tweet. Yeah.
I hope he gets 1,000-yard receiving season or something.
I think that ship has sailed. And Seen ended up with the Bills. Remember, he reversed at the last second.
Seen went to the Bills. Okay, that's news to me.
Initially, Mike Garofalo of ESPN tweeted the Jets, which, fair game and reliable. But then somehow the Bills, I think they had a weaker safety room because DeMar Hamlin, who we all know and love, is on tap to start. We also know that he isn't like really good. So I'm guessing that Seen can get some rotation there.
Yeah.
But Jaron Hall to the Seahawks, Andrew Booth to the Cowboys, and Lewis Seen to the Bills.
Yeah, okay. Well, and to your point, too, about Jaron Hall, I think you hit it spot on. As far as a business decision, Jaron Hall, him, the Saints or the Seahawks or the Raiders, as far as lucking into a QB1 job or playing time in general, Hall made a good decision going to the Seahawks. Like, it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. This year it's going to be Sam Darnold. You'd have to hope for a couple big injuries in order to see some playing time like he did last year with the Vikings. Like, I think he made a good business decision. And if there are Vikings fans that are upset about Hall to the Seahawks, find a different hobby. like there's other things to be upset about. All right, so all that, we just kind of wrapped up the preseason. We're just days away from the regular season. Some of these listeners that are listening right now may be listening after the first Chiefs-Ravens game of the week 1. What were your overall, 50,000 feet in the air thoughts on the Vikings preseason? Was there anything you loved, anything you hated, surprised by, not surprised by? You're going to check the box that, hey, I was right about this one thing. What were your thoughts?
So the preseason this year, inherently, because J.J. McCarthy was in the house, was the most exciting preseason I can remember in a decade, probably the last time they drafted a quarterback with Bridgewater, especially that second game. Because all of the undrafted guys made plays. Tristan Jackson, Malik Knowles was scoring touchdowns. McLaughlin was making, I think that was the second game, wasn't it, against the Browns? Like, there was a game, the second one, where all of the guys that we know and love that nobody else really knows outside of the Twin Cities was making plays. So that game was really exciting. We have divorced the Sean Mannion era of preseason doldrums. God, I hated preseason when that guy would come in. Like, why do we have that guy?
To butt in a little bit, I would
please
love to see like a 10-minute conversation between you
and Sean Mannion. I think that would be hilarious. I would pay per view that. Just a conversation, not a fight, like an actual conversation. That would be awesome.
It'd be even better to see me talk to back-to-back coaches or general managers who keep signing this guy. And it has to be some connection to Kirk, like they're best friends or something. But the guy was so inept. We can go one-on-one. So the fact that it was so exciting once and for all when preseason used to come around, when Mannion was on the roster and we just knew Cousins was going to play, I'd be like, oh, God. All right, after the first quarter, I have to sit through and watch this in case one of these guys does something cool. But the exciting nature of it, I did like that in the first game, it seemed that O'Connell realized, God, we looked rusty last year against the Buccaneers. Let's give these guys a drive or two. And then that McCarthy moment, those McCarthy 45 minutes or hour, whatever it was, that was certainly awesome. I liked that they switched it up to try playing the starters a little bit rather than the complete shutout we've seen since, I think, the final year of the Zimmer era. They started resting everybody, or maybe it was the start of 2022. It was an optimistic preseason that quickly became pessimistic because McCarthy's meniscus was torn. I will say that I don't know if we're going to cover that because I haven't talked on your show about it. God, that sucked. I would rather he played like ass in the preseason, and then we'd be like, if meniscus was torn, we'd be like, all right, we already knew that he's not going to be very good right away. That's cool. But the fact that he looked so good, he looked like Joe Burrow out there. Like he had the same number on, and then he gets hurt like Joe Burrow too. It really sucks because now, next year when we're doing this show in June and July, we're right back in the same damn spot, wondering if J.J. McCarthy is going to be any good. 2025 is going to be like this, hey, hopefully we're 8-9, 9-8 type of year because McCarthy will get 0 playing time in the preseason, or in this season, excuse me. So it's, to me, I understand. Like the good part about it is that it's only a meniscus. I've never heard, oh, hey, Joe Evans tore his meniscus. We never saw him again. I've never heard anybody say that. So it's cool that it was a minor, somewhat injury. But I was telling a couple people in the past few weeks that when I was on vacation when the McCarthy little saga played out, like, hey, he's banged up a little bit. He's going to be fine. Oh, my gosh, we're having a press conference. We have to wait 2 hours to figure out what they're going to say. It was the first time, I think it was a Tuesday. It was the first time all summer or all spring and summer that I have been like, okay, I have to get behind Sam Darnold. I didn't give a shit about Sam Darnold until that Tuesday because to me, he was the quintessential bridge quarterback, the quintessential patch over quarterback. It didn't matter to me at all how Sam Darnold played while McCarthy was waiting in the wings because McCarthy looked so good in the summer. All right, we're probably going to see this guy in October, November, maybe December. It doesn't matter to me what McCarthy does. Now, if I want to, remain the lifelong ardent fan that I am, I had to do introspective and say, all right, I have to start believing in all these Darnold takes that he can be Geno Smith, he can be Baker Mayfield, because that's what you do in sports. You find little nooks and crannies to find hope and excitement. I mean, that's why if the Vikings are 2-6 in a season, you're still crunching playoff scenarios. All right, if they win these next two, then they get hot. And I do that right along there with the rest of you. So that was the first time it would have been 5 months that I've ever looked down at the depth chart and been like, all right, so Sam Darnold it is. Let's do this. Up until that Tuesday, I'd been like, God, who cares what he does? And now I'm right there with you that I have to find that positivity, that Darnold positivity.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was probably a solid 1 or 2 days where leading up to the Skol Hop podcast, I almost wanted to text Evan and be like, we just need to not do the next week's podcast. I'm so grim and dark about this team right now over the second string quarterback. Yes, McCarthy's the future, and we all know that. But realistically, no matter what, Darnold was going to start against the Giants. I mean, I think totally me, and probably everybody else, was hoping McCarthy would pull a Russell Wilson and beat out.
And it looked like he might have been on his way.
Yeah, and he looked so freaking good. It reminded me of Bridgewater against the Chargers in the preseason, minutes before his knee decided to not exist anymore. It it was heartbreaking and totally Vikings of McCarthy's need to denigrate.
I got one more thing on this topic. So Yannick Eckhart, who is the editor of Purple PTSD, it's a sister site to Vikings Territory. For those, maybe I said this on the last show. You guys have to let me know. Maybe I did. For training camp and pretty much all of training camp, he and I were messaging back and forth like, this is too good to be true. Like, we kept saying, like, what's going on here? Like, everything we saw from McCarthy was sweet. It was, I mean, the leadership was there. He knows how to use a microphone. He knows how to throw the ball. Like, everything was so awesome. And I kept saying to Yannick, like, when is the other shoe going to drop? Like, when's the scandal going to happen? I'm not used to this good fortune at quarterback for the Vikings. And then the meniscus thing, and we were like, yep, there it is. That's why this feeling was so foreign. There's nothing. I know there's a lot of folks that tried to dress it up and say, hey, he's going to be the QB2 anyways. And I get that. But
I say just to make myself feel
better. But there's just no way. I mean, unless we get to Sunday and Darnold just starts looking like a baller and it persists through a month, then maybe that's right. God, it sucks. And it pisses me off every time I think about, you talked about we should just not do the show. There's nothing wrong with that. When the Vikings lose, especially one that's like, really, they lost that. I come back to this desk and I was like, I don't want to write about this shit. I'm going to take a nap and then I'm going to come back and then I'll think about it.
I don't know if you can,
but I'm right there with you. I don't want anything to write about this garbage.
Yeah, because this is your day job, man. Like I get to go look at IT purchases for the government. Like I could totally block out the Vikings if I wanted to.
Lucky guy.
I don't have to write 3,000 words on JJ McCarthy's knee breaking. Like, I could if I wanted to, but I don't have to. Yeah. I feel for you.
I got a bonus question for you here, Dustin. It wasn't one that we initially sent you earlier, but
it's okay.
The Vikings made, after releasing Jaron Hall with those initial 53-man roster cuts, they signed another quarterback. What are your thoughts on Brett Rippon from the Bears?
So, I guess they're indifferent, because we went through a season last year where we learned the value, lack thereof, of QB3. So because we went through the carousel last year, I understand that they want somebody who's a game ready. It's really weird how the McVays and the Shanahans and now the O'Connells recycle the same guys. They're like, hey, no, this guy fits in my system. So it's cool that McVay trusted him for however long. And it's funny that his comp is Nick Mullins. It just shows you that Kevin O'Connell kind of has a type. I mean, it doesn't make me think like, ooh, if things go bad, we've got Brett Rippon. I don't really want a quarterback carousel season. I really, for the life of me, hope that Darnold is 3,600 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, probably his usual 14 interceptions. Just keep it like that, and then I don't have to write every week about, hey, is it going to be Mullins or Rippon? Like that is Vikings football when I was a teenager, between Sage Rosenfels and Gus Frerotte, those teams. Remember those teams? Like, you didn't know if Tarvaris Jackson was going to start or Kelly Holcomb was going to start that week. I hate those days. There's nothing you can do about it now because McCarthy's hurt. So Brett Rippon, I guess I understand why they would trust him a little bit more than Jaron Hall. Brett Rippon's thing is his footwork is there, and he's pretty accurate, but he's not mobile, and he doesn't have a big arm. So it would basically be kind of, underneath ball. No, I'm not a big Brett Rippon guy, but I also wasn't a Jaron Hall guy, so why not at QB3? And get him in-house now so we don't have to do the Dobbs thing where you're calling plays in the huddle and he has to learn them on the fly.
But it worked against the Falcons.
And the first half against the Saints.
We had a magical 4 quarters between 2 games. And
there is. Well,
enough to get him a nickname of the Pastronaut. Now he's having he had a magical preseason.
He's doing what he did to us, to the 49ers fans. They're like, are we sure that he's not better than Brock Purdy? That's the litmus test for backup quarterbacks, and we saw it all the time last year, is they usually come in and they look really good, and you're like, how is this guy a backup? Within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they turn back into a pumpkin, A, because they were never that good in the first place, and then B, defensive coordinators have figured them out. It always comes down to, this is kind of Teddy Bridgewater's problem. Not that he's like shitty or anything. It's that if you can't be surgical outside the numbers, then you're not going to be a top 15 quarterback. Like Josh Dobbs, we learned somewhat quickly, like his MO is kind of the playground football. I'm going to tuck it and run, and I can juke you. But if you need him to throw something surgical to the side, that's not his game. And I personally think that's why Bridgewater didn't catch on as a consistent starter, is because he could throw it Bridgewater curiously would never really throw it to wide receivers. It was always to tight ends and running backs.
Inside.
That's what backup quarterbacks do. So I digress. What do we got next?
Well, to that point too, I always argue Nick Mullins is an elite NFL player. It's just his position is QB2. Like that's the thing. Like he is the guy you want to come in when Kirk Cousins pops his Achilles. Like he is the guy that, F it, I haven't taken but 2 starter reps in practice all week. I can throw it. Like Nick Mullins is the QB2. He could be a Hall of Fame QB2. That's just a terrible idea. You don't pick that guy. Anyways, we've got more.
We've got one final question here.
Maybe I might have one more, but go for it. Go for it.
Well, so we're coming up on week 1. I think we're all excited for football to finally be back. We got a little taste of it with college football this last weekend, which was a lot of fun. Some good games. Right now, the Vikings are currently favored, barely.
By 1 point.
That switched.
Did it really? I just looked around lunchtime today.
Yeah, back in June, it was 1 point to the Giants. In the last month, it became a pick'em even. And then I saw somebody tweet that the Vikings were favored, and I was like, "Ooh, that's new."
Yeah.
So currently the Vikings are favored. What are your thoughts? Are they going to win? They're going to lose? Is it going to be a slim margin? Is it going to be a bigger victory or a bigger loss?
Okay, so notably, if you guys care, this is the first time I've been asked this. I haven't written it yet, and I haven't answered the question. Yes, I do think that they will win, not because I'm a homer. I think that the roster that the Vikings have, if you can get over the underwhelming defensive tackle spot, if you personally trust Stephon Gilmore, Byron Murphy, and Shaq Griffin as respectable cornerbacks, and then you can get behind a competent Sam Darnold, I don't think beating the Giants is that huge of a task. Their defensive line is fantastic. Every time I start to think about this game, I'm like, oh, God, they got those 3 guys. Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and now Brian Burns, you probably saw on Hard Knocks.
Yep.
So the key to this game will be the Vikings getting to Daniel Jones, those blitz packages working, and then every game this season is going to come down to whether or not the Vikings protect the football. If Sam Darnold is acting like Sam Darnold and throwing interceptions and fumbling, then yes, the team's going to be 5-12, 6-11. The only knock on Sam Darnold through these 6 seasons is the turnovers. He still has the arm. He never didn't have the arm. But I do think they will win this game because they have that. It's almost like a must-win already, because after this game, not that they think that, oh my God, what are we going to do when we play the 49ers and Texans and all these guys? But I think their roster is flatly better than the Giants. This puts a lot of onus on Sam Darnold to be good or at least not turn the ball over. But I do think that Vikings have a superior roster. But I don't think it's going to be a slaughterhouse, nor do I think it's going to be very pretty. I can't really remember a whole lot of Vikings games week 1 where you're like, oh boy, they look great. They always look a little rusty. So I'm gonna say the Vikings win this one, probably 24-20 or so. And I'm not overly confident, like, dude, my team is so awesome. But I do think that there's something about this game. Sam Darnold played however many games in that very building. And then I go back to stupid, superstitious stuff. Like before Jordan Addison got arrested and all that, somebody was talking shit on Instagram and they were like, "Hey, the Giants are going to beat your ass week 1." He's like, "Yeah, you want to bet?" I always remember little stuff like that, and he internalize it. This is before, like I said, Addison turned into the naughty guy again. Yeah, I'll take the Vikings 24-20, but I won't be surprised one iota if they get beat like 31-10 or something like that.
And I think we'd both tend to agree with everything you just said. I mean, yeah, we were both. We have. I mean, we predicted a victory. Both of us did, and we started a new segment on our podcast where we will punish ourselves if we are incorrect in our predictions. So,
like
so
the FSU fan. Not quite like that.
No. We're gonna like eat a habanero or do something like do the podcast blindfolded if we are incorrect in our predictions. But yeah, I think you didn't say anything we don't both totally agree with. I really think, and I know I drink the purple Kool-Aid. I am the definition of a Vikings homer, and I know that. But I really think Sam Darnold, this has got to be his best opportunity to be good. Like when the Jets drafted him, 3rd overall? Like I feel like this is the best environment for him to be that 3rd overall pick. I'm not saying he's going to throw for 6,000 yards and 100 touchdowns, but dang it, he's like actually good, and the Vikings are a good surrounding cast. And for that reason, that's why I predict him, not just the Vikings, but him to beat the Giants. I don't know. I know I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid and I'm crazy, but I can't be convinced otherwise. My Darnold internal thoughts are twofold, and I think I've said before on your show my first little theory, so I'll make it quick. It is Vikings football for the veteran that maybe underperformed at several other stops. Randall Cunningham, Jeff George, Sam Bradford. It's the Viking way for a guy to come in and we're like, aha, he is good now. Usually that only lasts for a year or two. That's all we need. So I've seen it over and over in my life as a Vikings fan where the guy that they bring in, they squeeze the talent and prime out of him, and we get really excited about it. That is where I kept thinking, like, why would this time be any different? The devil on my shoulder says, this dude has been in the league for 6 seasons. Like, why does it take this long for him to show up to be good? You'd have to blame everything else that's not Sam Darnold to fully invest in this breakout season. Now, is it possible? Yeah. Maybe. He hasn't had weaponry like this. But we're talking about a quarterback who's gone through 6 seasons, not like Trey Lance, who's been misunderstood for 3 or whatever. That's my only hesitation as to, how is it going to be that 6 general manager, or not 6 years worth of head coaches got this wrong? That's the only thing I'm hesitant on. Ultimately, I think the Vikings will finish about 7-10. Their defense will be their signature. That's, I think, by the time we get to October, blah, 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 October 11th, my birthday, I think we're going to be like, holy crap, this defense is pretty good. Now, when I say stuff like that, you're like, but you only pick 7-10? The schedule is murderous. The NFC North, there's not a bad team in it anymore. When 2 seasons ago, everybody but the Vikings Bears are
was
a bad team. The
you
Bears
think so?
are a bad team.
Well, let's hope so.
Yep, no, they played fantasy football. I'm really sorry to just totally trounce on your point there. The Bears are a bad team. They won't win more than 6 games.
Well, no, that's what I like to hear.
This is on the internet. The Bears are bad. Anyways, please keep going. I'm sorry.
That's what I like to hear. I'm trying to think if there was another. Oh yeah, my other bold prediction. This is out in the digital stratosphere, and this is really random. One of my bold predictions is that Blake Brandel is going to be a baller, and not because I've sat there and watched a bunch of tape of him. From the moment we hit the offseason, the Vikings coaching staff said, "This is our left guard." And guys like you and me were like, "Are you sure? Aren't you bringing Dalton Reisner back? Maybe they're going to draft a guard." They have been steadfast that he is the guy all along. And Kevin O'Connell's coaching staff should have earned our trust on the offensive line, unlike the previous one. We should trust their solutions. So the fact that Brandel was the guy immediately, 3 years, $9.5 million, whatever it was, he was placed at left guard They ultimately re-signed Reisner, I guess, for depth, but said, bitch, you're not playing left guard. You're going to be the right guard. Like, they flat out told that guy who's been in the NFL since 2019, don't even think about playing left guard. And for Blake Brandel to have that type of clout suggests to me that he's going to be good. So when I say good, I bet you we look down December 31st, and Brandel's PFF is like 73, 74, 75. That is one of my bold takes. Yes, did I answer that question? I think that I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was about the Giants win, or the Giants game. Can the Vikings win? I think.
Oh boy, yeah, I spiraled off then. My fault.
Well, you reminded me. We could have gone off of your point for like 3 or 4 more episodes of this podcast.
Yeah,
I will say you reminded me everything you said about Sam Darnold. Like, why can't he be good? Like, why does he suck? Why can't he turn it around and be actually good for the Vikings? Like we all hope. Everything you said, people were saying about Baker Mayfield 12 months ago.
Yep,
literally
that's really true.
And I know, okay, it happened one time. That doesn't mean Sam Darnold's going to do it for the Vikings. But I feel like Sam Darnold's got all the tools. He's just never had a chance. Between injury and coaching firings and tradings, like he's never had a chance.
My only beef with that, but I fully buy into the argument, but for the sake of argument, Baker Mayfield was good once upon a time. Like, once upon a time, he was the big thing in Cleveland. They won the playoff game. He was throwing, 25 touchdowns? We never had that from Sam. If we had that 1 year or whatever, I would be like, okay, he can reclaim it. That's my only hesitation to jump in with this 2 feet is the fact that we haven't seen it from Darnold yet. But the good news is we're only 6 days away from figuring out if it's true.
And the argument to that is, we watched Sam Bradford light it up against the Saints and look like, a world record beater and a Super Bowl MVP quarterback in week 1. And then all of a sudden he had knee soreness and he was out the rest of the season. So that's the reason those words knee soreness always terrifies me. Evan, is there anything else? I do have one more question, but I think you might know my next question. Is there anything else for Dustin you can think of?
No, I think you should ask your last question.
All right, Dustin. Every Vikings fan in the world read it in the last week. What are your thoughts on this whole Star Tribune Mike Zimmer article that came out in the last few days?
So I woke up to it. I notoriously get up late on weekends now that my kids are old enough to sleep in. Yep, and they don't need constant supervision. I woke up and read it, and my first instinct was, I hope I never get like this. For real. As a dad, as a husband, and then 15, 20 years from now, grandpa, I never want to be that mean, stubborn, unaccountable. And that was my first takeaway is nobody ever taught him that, there's a lot of power in saying I messed up. I made the wrong mistake here. It's actually a real great process to do that, to say I made a mistake and you confess to your coworker, your boss, your wife, your mom. How can we fix this? How can I do better? But there's zero of that from Mike Zimmer. Now, I'm 40 years old. I've dealt with men like this for a long time, as I'm sure you have, where you just have to kind of accept that they're going to be a prick from time to time. That's what their generation did. The thing that rubbed me the worst was how mind-blowing or boggling it was to Zimmer that he would entertain saying goodbye to his teammates because they got him fired. And I can't believe that a leader for 8 years, you wouldn't think, well, you know what? I love a lot of these guys. I will at least go in there, give one of my weird speeches that he evidently gave, but he didn't even do that. And then the other thing that I felt genuine sadness for was when he talked about the death of his son from alcoholism, about 2 years ago? He said, my son couldn't find a job because I got fired. And I feel bad that he evidently blames the Vikings or his players because he already said that it surely wasn't his fault that he was fired. It makes me sad to know that he had is on top of the sadness of losing a kid, he has this jaded vision about why his son couldn't get a job is because his dad got fired. And as an alcoholic myself, coming up on 12 years of recovery, like when Adam Zimmer died, it hit home. He was in his 30s, and that's when I got lucky enough to get sober. So that struck a little bit of a chord. On a lack of a serious note, seeing the rumor mill all inside there was fantastic. Knowing that the Justin Field rumors were true, knowing that he didn't like Kellen Mond, I guess never even talked to the guy. We basically, we knew that Zimmer and Spielman, things weren't joyous in that 2021 season, but it was worse than we could have even imagined. There were some on social media that still love Zimmer's honesty, and that a boy. He is Bill Parcells to the T. Like, folks that grew up in my generation loved, watched, experienced Parcell. This is the same damn thing. Like, you're always just prickish to a fault. It's always the other guy's fault. The reason Zimmer got away with it, and so did Parcells, is because generally speaking, they're winners. And nobody really cares if you're a mean guy when you're winning. But I will maintain my positive view of Zimmer from those fun seasons, because I never want to just wholesale indict somebody. But I hope that I never have to hear any of my descendants look back and be like, yeah, that ball guy was a prick, man. I could never get a word in edgewise with him. What a shitty legacy that would be.
Yeah. Now, I do have to admit, on this very episode, just a handful of minutes ago, I did give my 50,000 feet overview of this article, and I did say, like, I kind of came away with maybe a positive thought process on Zimmer.
Well, that's okay.
I think, and not to just blatantly be like, Dustin, you're wrong. I do think, yes, he feels jaded, which anyone who's ever fired from their job, because he wasn't just let go. He was fired. Just like every NFL player that's cut, they're fired. I think of Pat Enger from the Colts. I've heard him speak like, yeah, I played for the Colts and they fired me. They hated me, whatever. Anyways, Mike Zimmer was fired, and how could you not be jaded from being let go from your job? I do think, I think I got, not that I agree with every word he said, or I totally think he's in the right, totally on every thought process, but I think I got more in the mindset of what he was thinking.
Yeah.
And I think I could agree that to him, in his mindset, he doesn't think he deserved to be fired. Me, Austin, a podcast host that 3 people listen to every week, it's plain as day. Yeah, Zimmer should not continue to have been the Vikings head coach. Like he needs to be fired. It's plain and clear. He had overstayed his welcome as the head football coach of the Vikings, and they needed to go a different direction. But that article was interesting to me to hear his thought process and hear why he thought he was fired and his reaction to being fired. And it seems, which I think is the whole fluff version of this article, it seems like his life and he is better for it now, and he's happier now. Although, yeah, I think he was at the time very jaded and very much, I didn't do anything wrong. They got me fired. Like, that was a direct quote from him. Like,
yeah, he has a differing reality than I think what I'll give you one example of when somebody's reality was different. I can't believe when I look back. So in 2021, my good friend who started Vikings Territory or bought it and built it, he passed away in the summer of 2021. And I got to know a lot of his circle after that because he knew a lot of Vikings themed writers and analysts. And I was making really good money on the Vikings Territory at the time. And there was about 2 weeks where I didn't know if the website was going to keep going because I didn't know Joe's family. Yeah. So I was reaching out to folks who wanted to know what happened to Joe, and I knew. So I was giving them kind of the version that the family would let me get out. And there was one writer that a prominent Twin Cities writer, that we talked for about 45 minutes one night. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about doing this full time. It sounds like the site's gonna stay afloat, and I make a lot of good money doing this.
Yeah.
He's like, sir, listen to me. He's like, I've written for 30 years. He was like, you do not want to do this full time because you'll lose your passion for it. It becomes a job. He's like, if there's one bit of advice, he's like, you do not want to do writing as your job, especially about a sports team. And I really thought about that, and it kind of delayed me pulling the trigger on going, explaining to my wife, like, I want to do this full time. Here's my tax return that shows that this is a good thing. And ultimately, I took his advice and threw it in the garbage about 7 months later. And I make like double the amount of money I make that I did at my other job. And I almost every other day I think back about how terrible advice that was for me. That was probably great advice for him. But for me, like an obsessive personality, I love writing every single day. I don't get sick of it. And I often think, and this is that differing reality, like he in his heart of hearts, he was doing a solid by telling somebody you don't want to get into a career of writing. It becomes mundane. You're writing about the same thing. But to me, it was the most laughable advice I've ever received because I would still be stuck at some regular job and I have to write about the Vikings like late at night. And I think about it so frequently that I'm living the realistic version of a dream job for me. My dream job would be to be a general manager of a basketball team, but I'm probably never going to do that. So one of the closest thing I can do is use my talent to write about football. And yeah, it's his reality told him something, but mine is so damn different than that. That's what made me think of when you said you respected the Zimmer, like his mindset was, I'm getting the hell out of here because they don't want me here. Of course, that's how he felt. I just hope that I never adapt that way.
Well, and maybe Zimmer, if he was truthfully honest, would have that same mindset of like, hey, if you love football, don't ever make it your head coach. Like, don't ever make it your job because you'll eventually get fired, even if you are a good coach, and you'll hate it anyways. Like, I think in the article, he says something like, other people convinced me to get back into coaching because honestly, Mike Zimmer, I thought I was a lousy coach because I got fired. But no, I need to prove, the Vikings and just the coaching world wrong and prove that I am a good coach. I could see if Mike Zimmer had that thought process, like, hey, don't ever make it your livelihood because you'll just get hurt. Yeah.
The guy is resilient. The guy is resilient as hell, losing his wife however many years ago. He had that eye thing. I don't know if that was ever completely resolved. Then his son died. The guy is indestructible. And a lot of that probably has to do with that tough as nails persona.
Yeah. Either way, I think that Mark Craig Star Tribune article is a good read.
I'll say.
I would encourage people to go seek that out and try to find it. I hate when papers or sites put a paywall behind their stuff because it can just find it anyways. But I think Star Tribune has a paywall, but you can find it anyways. It's a good read. Not as good as most things on Vikings Territory. But
hey, as we conclude, I'm turning the tables on you bitches. We'll probably talk like a month from now. So tell me the Vikings record by, let's see, end of week 5.
All right, we have to be true to ourselves.
Okay.
We made our picks 3-4-ish episodes ago, and I think we made these picks before JJ got injured.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, that's kind of irrelevant, if we're making...
it's all an asterisk, we can tell. All right, but up to the bye. The bye is week 6. Okay, so they will have played 5 games by October 6th.
Okay,
I have them with a 3-2 record.
Ooh, wow!
Personally.
I like it. Okay,
and I'd take the inverse. I'm going to go 2-3. I think they bookend that stretch with wins, and then the 3 games in the middle they lose.
Okay, they beat the New York teams.
Correct.
Yep.
I also have a final record of 11-6.
Holy crap!
Yes, that was before the JJ injury. I'm sticking to it. I'm going to hold my guns, and I'm saying 11-6.
Every week in our Slack channel, I ask all of the writers one opinion question about, hey, what's your bold prediction for the Vikings? Hey, who's the draft pick going to be? And so this week we got to obligatory win-loss. And if you wrote for Vikings Territory, sir, yours would have been the highest. The highest one we had was 10-7.
If you ever need a homer to write some fluff pieces, I'm not joking. Reach out to me. I will make every Vikings fan feel like we're about to win the Super Bowl. Okay?
We had 1 week. When was it? I think it was in December or something. So the guy that passed away, I told you about, his sister and husband took over the site and run it in the background. And they put a message out to us one time that, hey, there's some Facebook commenters that say that the site's tone is too negative right now. And I was like, we just got our asses beat by the Packers. I'm not going to spin this positively. Now I know I'm going to call you and be like, hey, man, what do you got for this disaster? And you can be our spin department.
Not joking. I will spin anything. KOC could get rolled over by a steamroller, and I will find the silver lining in that. I promise you. I'll give you 1,000 words on why KOC being run over by a steamroller is actually a good thing.
What's funny, though, is Austin's usually the pessimist, and I'm usually the optimist.
Yeah. Yep. So he's a better liar than you is what it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Better salesman.
Yeah. All right, Evan, you got anything else?
No,
anything?
I've enjoyed this. This has been great.
Oh yeah, you can tell. You can tell by the energy on this show, other shows in general. You can tell when football's back based on the energy you have on your show. Like everything.
As much, 3 weeks from now when the Vikings are 3,
No, but it's having the sport back. Like there were nights in June I'm like, all right, let's get this Vikes now going, and you're like, let's talk about Hunter Renfrow again. Maybe he'll sign after we record this episode. And it's the same shit over and over. But now you can, now you can feel it when football's this close. The palpable energy that we had here tonight. So, all right, you guys hit me up. That sounds like an invitation to probably right before the Jets game. Okay.
Yeah, at least every month we're looking at the first week of the month. Hey, before we let you go, plug anything you want to plug. I know last time you were on, you were talking about an up-and-coming website that looks at draft prospects, but also keeps going with them.
Yeah.
That and anything else. What else?
Okay, we got that off the ground officially about a week and a half ago. It's drafthuddle.com. Yannick Eckhart and I are the gurus, if you will, the owners. And our mission is to, of course, cover the draft from January until April. But in our opinion, all of the cool sites like Draft Network, like NFL Draft Buzz, once the draft's over, we don't give a shit about the rookies anymore, and we wanted to change that. We want to track the rookies and how either our projections or the world's projections, how it translates over to the rookie season. So it would have been a great year to cover J.J. McCarthy or pretty much any quarterback in this class. So drafthuddle.com, and then my coworkers are always so cool. Yannick Eckhart is the boss over at Purple PTSD. At Vikings Territory, Adam New writes a few things per week. Ted Schwerzler, a big Twins guy, he writes. We have Josh Fry, who's still in the mix. We have a good pool of takes, whether there's some that might be more pessimistic, and then like you, who's a positive all the time. So we try to get the best flavor, and Yannick and I always try to stay right in the middle. And then, teeter towards getting excited when things are good. So thank you for the opportunity to plug those things, and we'll talk to you guys in about a month, okay?
All right. We had a good conversation with Dustin there. That was a lot of fun.
That was awesome. Dustin, if you're listening right now, and I probably just told this to you a few minutes ago, we'd love to have you on. Anytime you ever want to come on, you're great. You're only awesome to the show. Thank you for coming on. It was great.
We're super fortunate to be able to do that once a month with Dustin. It's been awesome, and we're looking forward to continuing that trend for sure.
And listeners, followers, watchers, whatever, if for some crazy reason you're watching us and following us and you're not already following Dustin Baker or Vikes Now or VikingsTerritory.com, please go follow all of those things everywhere you can. Dustin Baker is a fantastic Vikings content creator. On Twitter alone, he'll tweet out some really entertaining stats about hey, Vikings kicker hasn't kicked a 55-yard field goal with 2 seconds left since 1972. He'll throw out these awesome stats, and they're always like, oh wow, that's really entertaining. Please follow Dustin Baker and all of his escapades everywhere else. He's awesome.
Definitely worth a follow. You recommended him to me on Twitter. I started following him, and I just feel like I'm way smarter as a Vikings fan because of him.
He's not condescending. He's not. I don't know. How many times have we talked to him? I don't know his like political views. I don't know anything. Like, he doesn't try to push anything annoying. He just, on Twitter or anywhere else, he just talks about the Vikings, and it's entertaining and it's awesome. And please follow him.
Yes.
He's amazing.
Worth a follow, 100%.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this newer brewery that we're trying out, Keg Creek Brewing, and their Midwest Haze IPA?
I feel like I want to drink like 30 more of these, over the course of an appropriate amount of time. This beer, like,
it's good.
This hazy IPA, there's nothing that's like, oh, that's the best of all time, but it's just solid. It's amazing. Like, I want to drink, like I said, like 30 more just to get my thought process and my evaluation totally on point, to be like, this is exactly why you need to drink these. Because if you like hazy IPAs, you will love this beer. And Evan, you're not a hazy IPA lover. You'll drink them, and that's you can enjoy a nice one. What are your thoughts?
It's good. I say this all the time. I like a beer that doesn't try to do too much.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those. Like, especially in that hazy IPA category, you get a lot of these beers that are like, we're going to throw in this crazy flavor, or we're going to mix in like 12 different kinds of hops. And just some of those beers are like, yeah, they're good for one or two. But like this beer, I agree with you. I could have several of these. I could enjoy a 12 pack over a long weekend or something like that and not get tired of them, because they're not trying to do too much. They're well-rounded, they're balanced, they're easy drinking, and it just tastes good.
Yeah, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think both of us, just on drinking this one beer, if we ever saw Keg Creek's Brewing logo on any other beer, we would absolutely try it, even if it's a variety of beer we don't normally. If they put out a sour, and I'm not a sour guy, if they put out a sour, which they probably do, they're a brewing company, I would absolutely grab it, because I mean, this one beer lets me know they put out good products. They did my favorite kind of beer perfectly, and I like it a lot. And Keg Creek, thank you for making this. If you want to be the official beer of the Skol Hop, let us know. I think both of us would gladly do that. You listeners, watchers, you may see a few Keg Creek Brewing beers on the show, in the near future. Like, that's not crazy.
You said that they have an amber, so I said I will find that amber and we will have it on the show. It's going to happen.
At our favorite local Hy-Vee, there were 3 Keg Creek Brewing beers, and we're trying one of them. The other one was the amber, and I've said it a few times, I can't remember what the third one is, but yeah, I would happily drink any of them.
Here you go. Well, as we wrap things up, I'm going to flip the tables on you. Where can people reach out to us? Where can they find us?
All you got to do, if you really want to find us, Google the Skol Hop, SKOL, the Skol Hop. You'll find our website. You'll find our Twitter account, or X, however you want to call that website.
It's Twitter.
We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit. If you really want to find us there, we're everywhere. Just Google the Skol Hop. Our email address is theskolhop@gmail.com. We still have a standing offer. If you send us an email, and if you want it, we will send you a sticker. We're working on a giveaway package, which we've teased for it feels like a year now. We're out there. Find us at YouTube. Actually, if you really want to see us, we're on YouTube. You can watch us on Spotify. I think the video file is on Spotify too, but really YouTube is where you can watch us too, see our beautiful faces. Evan's godlike face right there. It's amazing. Leave us a comment. I think I butchered this sentiment last week. If you're watching us, leave us a comment and let us know, hey, I'm watching on this platform. I think I confused people in saying, let us know where in the world you're watching. No. We don't want to know where you live. Let us know like what platform you're watching us on: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Just just leave us a comment. That'd be really fun to know which platform our followers are watching us on.
There have been quite a few people that have viewed a video of ours on the TikTok platform.
Yeah, there are some people that are sick like me, and they watch injury videos, sports injury videos. And the second I see like a sports injury happen on TV, I'm immediately like Googling like, oh, John Smith broken leg, and I want to watch that video. So I've just started recording my TV and posting up those slow-mo videos on TikTok, and we've got a couple highly viewed videos of sports injuries on TikTok. So if that's your thing, go find us on TikTok. Again, it's the Skol Hop. And we have all of our other podcast content on TikTok, but we also have the occasional broken leg, or the North Carolina quarterback Max Johnson getting his leg just decimated. If that's your thing, go find us there too.
We're everywhere. That's the point. And we like good beer, and this was a good beer, and would definitely have it again. And I will seek out Keg Creek for sure.
It's there. It's
good stuff.
I don't know how long they've been at Hy-Vee, but it's got to be recent because I've never seen them before today. So,
well, next week we're going to be sitting in these chairs talking about a week 1
victory.
Vikings game, hopefully a victory. But until then,
best episode yet.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.